And don't worry, we can edit stuff out if we need to. But basically, there's a little thing in the corner that says live streaming, so people are aware.
Okay, and then does anyone here have a Mac?
I do.
Okay, because I'm going to step off once you're talking with legislators. I think it's good if it's constituents. But if you hit Command Shift and the number 3, all at the same time, it'll take a screenshot.
Yeah, I'll just hold on.
I think that Marty
Okay,
has
yeah.
screenshots figured out.
Oh, okay.
So we'll try and do some of that, unless we get totally engrossed and lost in the advocacy conversation there.
Okay, you're the backup, Dennis.
We'll remember.
Command Shift 3.
I know.
And I can do that even if I'm not the
Anybody can do it.
moderator.
Yeah, you can do it anytime you want to take a picture of anything on the screen. I use it for, like data charts all the time. Like if I'm reading something, I'll just capture.
Okay, great.
I'll remember too, Dennis.
Welcome. I'm not sure if
Actually,
everybody knows me. I'm Ann Krisnick. I'm the executive director of the Joint Religious Legislative Coalition. But this is my district, so I know a number of people here. So they said, yeah, can you give us a little briefing beforehand? And I said, sure. So in case you're wondering why I'm chatting with people, that's who I am and that's why I am.
Thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing that. And you are one of us.
I know.
As well as being a special guest.
I'm proud to be. Proud to be.
Hey, Ann, different Ann Mealy.
Yes.
Since you know how to do that, our task is to take some screenshots when people are getting involved in the conversation. Could you do that? Could you take a couple of them? Sure. And they will appear. They could appear on the JRLC website. So, yeah,
I can do that.
You're our largest district for meetings this year.
Should I send them to you, Ann?
So.
Do you want me to send them to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, send them to me as well. Okay.
Okay, I will.
I feel like I should go change into something green.
Oh, you didn't get that memo? We were saying we're going to celebrate. We said that advocacy can be fun. Maybe Sister Kathy might have a good Irish tune she could start us off with before everybody gets into the room.
Do you think our Marty that I tell that little story about when we're
it doesn't want to change back.
Oh.
I know. Huh. Did you have that trouble? Yeah, I did. Wait a minute.
Okay.
What if we just put it on the screen and we see?
Okay. What was that there, Dennis? Are we going to have Kathy sing us an Irish tune?
No, I thought when we were talking about St. Patrick's Day, I'd share that Joan said that she didn't think that we could get Senator Murphy today.
When Irish eyes are smiling, sure it's like a morning spring. With a lilt of Irish laughter, you can hear the angels sing. When Irish hearts are happy, all the world seems bright, and I'll say gay. Oh, when Irish eyes are smiling, sure they'll steal your heart away.
Oh, that was wonderful.
Yay.
All righty. So as we approach our 6:30 kind of start time, we just want to welcome everyone. We hope that people are somewhat comfortable with Zoom at this point in our pandemic lives. But we're going to invite people to unmute and mute yourself when you are being called upon to speak. It'll just kind of eliminate a little background noise. And then just so people are aware in advance, so We are live streaming this on YouTube, mainly so that we can record it. The JRLC wanted to use this as an example to other districts as a model of what they can do in terms of doing a legislative visit. And then secondly, you will notice on your screen that there is a person on the screen called CV Broadcast. So we have been a little creative here with the Sisters of St. Joseph and Consociates and have figured out a creative way to broadcast Zoom meetings on their televisions at Carondelet Village. So we have a number of people at Carondelet Village who are watching the Zoom meeting on their TVs tonight. They will not be able to talk with us, but they are participating. And so a shout out especially to Sister Florence, who said that she would definitely be running there after her dinner to join us tonight. So hello, Sister Florence over at the Village. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dennis.
Thank you, Marty. I see we got 40 people, which is already 5 more than I thought we were going to get. So we're doing well. Want to welcome everyone and do some introductions. My name is Dennis Dejanev. I'm the District 64 JRLC organizer, and it's for the 4th time in a row. And my wife, Monica, and I have been residents of District 64B for the past 25 years, and we're members of Lumen Christi Catholic Community. We have 2 co-hosts, Marty, that you already met, who's the director of the CSJ Justice Office, and Joan Whitman, Carondelet Village Justice Liaison to the CSJ Justice Commission. And I might mention, it was 2 years ago that Joan was awarded the 2009 JRLC Social Justice Award. So she's a celebrity. And I would also like to introduce some JRLC staff. We have the executive director, Ann Krisnick, and she is also one of us because she resides in District 64. So she'll be participating, but we'll also be offering some expert comments. And I believe Joan Miltenberger, who is a statewide organizer for JRLC, will also be joining us if she hasn't yet. I've not seen her name. We would like to welcome what we thought were going to be about 35 of you, and now I see we got 46. So we're doing quite well. And of the 35, we had 6 who represented. We had 6 faith-based organizations represented by them, and I'm going to go through them. And then for anybody who's not identified here, who comes from a different faith-based organization, I'll ask, whom didn't we announce yet? But in regard to faith-based organizations, what I'd like to do is I'd like to just say the name of the organization. I'll tell you how many people registered from that, and then ask everybody from that organization to, as best they can, introduce themselves and to tell us a little bit about what their social justice interest is or involvement. So just a short statement. We have to go through quite a few people, but I think we can do that in this half hour. So the first one I'd like to mention is my own, which is Lumen Christi Catholic Community. And we have 9 people represented as far as I know. And so could we just go through the others? So anybody who wants to start, just start the introductions.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, let me introduce myself. I've got several connections to your group, although I'm not formally a part of it. My name is Larry Maloney, good Irish name, and so happy St. Patrick's Day to you. I am a longtime friend of Marty Rohr's and have participated in events with him several times. I'm the uncle of Anne Rainier and the brother of Mary Rainier, who's Anne Rainier's mother. And I'm participating because I'm a member of Isaiah, and I am going to be putting on a event very much like this one in April. And so I'm here to get educated in part because you're doing what I will be doing. So April 24th, we'll be doing a very similar event. So that's who I am. Thank you for having me.
Good meeting you. Anybody else from Lumen Christi? Jackie, I see you.
I think you're muted, Jackie.
But just remember to unmute yourself when you can.
Yes, so my name is Jackie Peterson. I'm a member of Lumen Christi, and I hope to speak to the investment to strengthen the emergency services program tonight. And anything else I'm supposed to say, Eric? I mean, Marty, or?
No, that's it.
Okay.
And that will be coming up. It'll be the first item we go through. So, and there's going to be actually 3 people will be speaking. So you're going to be one of them.
Sorry, I was chatting with someone. So
Okay.
sorry.
Let me just maybe run down the list and I'll call out people from Lumen that I know, and that way we can move this along. But we've already heard from Ann. We've got Mike Harley on, followed by Ann Maley.
She waved.
Okay.
Okay.
How about John Benda? You're on as well, I see.
Here I am. Good to be here.
Just quickly looking through the list. Other Lumen folks, just shout out, say hello to everyone.
Margaret.
Margaret George is on. All righty. So then
Okay.
let's do a quick shout out then next to all the folks from Bethel University. We've got quite a few Bethel University students online with us tonight. So thank you for joining us. And again, if you want to just unmute yourself and just give a shout out and a hello and maybe what year you are at Bethel University and what you're studying.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emma. I'm a student at Bethel University. I'm a junior. I'm studying social work and missional ministries.
Hi, I'm Renee Pigler. I'm a senior reconciliation studies major with a minor in social welfare studies at Bethel University.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly, and I'm a senior social work major.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley, and I'm a junior social work major.
Hi, I'm Carly. Oh, sorry, Nicole. I'm a junior social work major too.
Yeah, I'm Nicole. I'm also a junior social work major.
Hi, I'm Josh.
I'm also a social work major.
Yeah, I'm also a junior social work major.
Josh, huh? Okay.
Anyone else? Excuse me. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Tina. I'm also a junior. Nice to meet you, everyone.
Anyone else from Bethel?
I'm Ruth, a junior in the social work program as well.
Well, thank you all for joining us tonight. We're very excited you could be a part of this meeting with us tonight.
Yeah, we have, the next one is, we have 12 members from the Sisters of St. Joseph Carondelet, consociates and members of their Social Justice Commission. So this will be our largest contingency. So
again, maybe to make it simple, I'll try and run down the list. And if I miss anyone, you can shout out at the end. But Karen Zelzenek, you want to start us off?
I sure will. Karen Zelznak. I'm a co-chair of the Justice Commission.
And then we got Rita Quigley.
I'm also a co-chair along with Karen of the Social Justice. And if we ever had time, I'd love to know about that Bethel student who's in reconciliation major. I'd like to know about that, for heaven's sake. An old social worker. That's why I'm such a busybody. Okay.
All righty.
Are you
Irish?
I just need to know if she's Irish by any chance.
Well, Kathy, Sister Kathy, why don't you introduce yourself next, and then we'll go with Ashley Lopez.
Okay, I'm Kathy McLaughlin. I'm a sister of St. Joseph for about 65 years. And I'm here because I was a teacher my whole life, taught high school and college. And now I'm trying to learn some new ways of being of service.
And for those of you that joined us a few minutes early, you got to hear Sister Kathy singing an Irish tune there for us. So then we'll go with Ashley Lopez and Deb Sheets after that.
I'm Ashley Lopez. I'm the Justice Associate working in the Justice Office with Marty, the CSJs, and I'm just to be here to talk about childcare funding.
I'm Deb Sheets. I'm a CSJ consociate, and I'm also on the Justice Commission and part of our new homelessness working group. And so I'm here to advocate for housing.
And then we'll go to Ellen and Dolores. You're over at the Village, so you can jump in the group with us as well. But let's start with Ellen and then Dolores.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ellen. I'm an occupational therapy student at St. Kate's, and I work with the CSJs. I will be advocating for safety net programs tonight.
Dolores, do you want to say hi from Carondelet Village?
Unmute. Hi from Carondelet Village.
Great. Eric and Alex Celeste, and then after that, we'll go with Mary Ellen Foster.
Hi, I'm Eric. I'm Alex. And we're both the Peace Circle Friends of St. Joseph and with ICOM on immigration issues.
Great. Sister Mary Ellen, would you like to introduce yourself? And then how about Joan Whitman?
I'm Mary Ellen Foster, and I've been around a little bit longer than Kathy McLaughlin, but my concerns are around homelessness and structures of racism within the local community and within our law structure.
All righty, Joan Whitman and then Marcia Berry. Joan, are you able to unmute yourself? Or Marcia Berry, you want to jump in there? I can't see if Joan is.
Hi, I'm Marcia. I use she and her pronouns. I'm a consociate candidate, which means I'm new to this whole process. And I've been working a lot this winter on confronting whiteness and racism, and also active in the LGBTQ connections group. And so yay for our Senator Klobuchar. She heard today on the Justice or on the Judiciary Committee. Hopefully the Senate will pass the Equality Act. Go Minnesota.
Okay. All right. I'm Joan. Sorry, I was missing the mute button. I'm a consociate with the Sisters of St. Joseph, serve on the Justice Commission and on the Legislative Advocacy Working Group. And I will be speaking tonight to the cuts and safety net programs.
All right, Margaret McGrath and then Sister Nancy Davis. Margaret, do you want to say hello? Just unmute yourself there if you would like to.
I had to get over there.
Yep.
Yes, I'm a consociate with the CSJs, and I'm interested in confronting whiteness and racism and homelessness, etc.
All right, Sister Nancy and then Sister Meg Gillespie, if you'd like to say hello.
I'm Nancy Davis, and I'm here mostly to learn.
Great. Sister Meg Gillespie, would you like to say hello?
You need to unmute yourself. Sister? Yeah.
Thank you. I'm Meg Gillespie, a sister of St. Joseph. I'm here to learn. I'm also here to see what's happening with some of the big national issues and maybe some of the local St. Paul issues. I just moved to St. Paul 2 years ago, and I just thought it would be a safer place than it is.
And then I think the last group is we have our St. Joseph worker community on tonight as well. I don't know if they want to unmute and say hello.
Hi, my name is Britta. I'm one of the St. Joseph workers with the Sisters of St. Joseph. My service site is at a ministry called Sarah's and Oasis for Women, and we serve immigrant women who need transitional housing while they're seeking asylum. Yeah, so I care a lot about housing in particular and safety net programs.
And then I think we've got some community members from the St. Joseph Worker House on as well. So thanks, Britta, for joining us. And I think, again, I'm trying to scroll through the list, so I think that's.
So, Marty?
Oh, I missed Kathy Ryan. There we go.
Yes, I am a sister of St. Joseph for 60 years, and I was in elementary education, primary grades, and I'm very interested in childcare funding.
And Linda Taylor, I heard your voice somewhere.
I'm not invisible on purpose. Anyway, I'm Linda Taylor. I'm a sister of St. Joseph. And the main areas I'm drawn to or concerned about are LGBTQ Connections Task Group and the racism.
Great. Well, thank you all to the CSJs and Consociates for joining us. And Dennis, you want to run through the last few folks that we have on as well?
The ones that we have registered at this point, we have an individual from Emmanuel Lutheran Church in St. Paul. The name is Peg Wangenstein. Is she here? Is Peg here?
I'm not seeing Peg on the list, though. She might have a different screen name.
Okay. We have someone from Luther Seminary, Mary Hess.
Yeah, that would be me. Hi, everyone. I actually resonate with all of the issues you're talking about. So, hey.
We have St. Joan of Arc, Minneapolis. And hi, Bob. Would you say hi? Bob Butel.
Greetings, everybody. I'm interested in the economic issues mainly. Let's have a good meeting tonight.
Thanks.
That's my list of registered people. Did I miss anybody? Any other faith institutions? No? Okay. Well, I should mention here that we'll not be sharing self-introductions when the legislators join us because of time. Basically, we want to get through the agenda, but will be sending them a full list of our attendees, and so the legislators will have your names as having met with them. So we'll be shortcutting the process then. And what I'm sharing in preparation here for the meeting will be very similar to the introductions that I'll be giving to the legislators when they join us, but it's important to give you an idea of the process and what to expect ahead of time. So that's why I'm kind of going through it twice. And Marty's got the overall agenda here. We're in the pre-meeting and have 13 more minutes to do that. Tonight, we'll be using what we're calling, Marty and I, a town hall-like format. The JRLC legislative agenda items will be presented one at a time based on their current prioritization as of this week. JRLC gave us a list of which ones were going to be encountering most of the legislative action, and that's how we decided to prioritize them. For each of the JRLC legislative agenda items, we're going to show a short description. We'll have someone read a short description. Then one or more individuals who volunteered on the Eventbrite questionnaire will share a story.
Whoops, Dennis, you accidentally muted yourself there.
I don't know how that happened. Am I coming through now?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. How far back do I need to go?
Just you were saying that there's someone who will share a story or some facts for us. So point B there.
Yep. And then once that's done, we'll make a clear and distinct ask of a specific legislator based on his or her committee assignments and also personal interests and involvement. And we'll listen to that legislator's response, after which we'll give the other two legislators an opportunity to briefly comment on that topic. So that's the approach we're going to do. We're going to iterate through these steps A through D, and for as many of the items as we can have time to put up. Now, Marty, can you put up the legislative items slide?
There you go.
Okay, good. As you're probably aware, because this has been out on the website, and I think it's probably been sent out to individuals by email a few times, there are 9 JRLC legislative agenda items. And here they're going to be in a different order than you've probably seen them before. They're in the order by which they're most important to pending legislation. And the number one is something that a lot of people mentioned as an interest. It's basically emergency shelters. And there are actually 2 bills here. We're kind of rolling them together. There's a bonding bill for emergency shelter or places for people to live in an emergency setting. And then there's emergency services program, which involves food and transportation. It's basically money that takes care of the expenses. And that's the one that seems to be more active at the moment. We're going to go through driver's license suspension and fines, child care assistance, advocates against cuts to the safety net, tiny house legislation, COVID-19 relief, housing assistance program, maternal mortality and morbidity access to Medicaid data, hate and bias crimes, and then fighting gambling expansion. Now we've only got 45 minutes total with our legislators. So if you try to do that for all 9 of these, you'd have 3 minutes apiece about. So what we're doing is we're going to be concentrating on the top 4 in terms of priority. And maybe we might have a chance to get to the 5th one a little bit. So if we get that far, that's going to leave some that we won't be able to get to. But we'll talk at the end of this about how we might be able to have follow-up on this meeting. Then once we have been able to get through as many as we think we can get to, we're going to reserve the last 5 minutes for closing comments from our legislators and constituents. So it's not much time to talk there, but we might be able to get some sense of where we have brought the agenda through the course of this meeting. Then after our legislators meeting, we'll be able to discuss follow-ups and key points that were made. And hopefully we'll be able to put out a summary after this is done. So are there any questions or comments about how we're going to approach this?
I have one comment, and this looks wonderful and it's beautifully organized. And I would like to think all of our districts operate this way, but I know that's not quite true. I just want to add on the very first piece, there's not a separate bonding bill dealing solely with emergency shelter. We're wanting to make sure that whatever bonding is for housing includes emergency shelter. So I just, in case they say, what's that bill? Like whoever's speaking to that, there'll be bonding around housing, and we want to make sure that includes emergency shelter. So this looks great.
Well, fortunately, we've asked Joan if you would be willing to be on the agenda for that item too, in case we do make any inaccurate. So I'm not going to worry too much because we sort of rehearsed this up to this point. So we just might need a little bit of straightening out at the end of that, if you'd be willing to do that. Okay. Or fail safe. Okay, so we're now waiting on our legislators. If anybody wants to ask any other questions or make any points, we have 7 minutes that are free.
Dennis, I have one question. It sounded like a couple of us were doing the same issues. Is time going to allow for that, or should we flip for it?
Okay, I can go through and talk about who's doing what. We're going to have actually 3 speakers. Erica, who is with a student at St. Kate's, and Jackie talking about the first one, the emergency housing. And we'll also have Ann come in and make a few statements to clarify anything.
So maybe just quickly there, Dennis. Erica, if you just say hello, and Jackie, you say hello so you can see each other on the screen, so you know. So Erica, you're going to be introducing it, and then you're going to pass it off to Jackie. So say hello, Erica, and then Jackie.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Hi. Hello.
Okay, so
Okay.
then when we get to driver's license suspension and fines, there will be a story from the CSJ Justice Commission. Who's doing that, Marty? I'm not sure I got a name associated with that.
I'm going to just be taking that one and quickly moving through that one to give us maybe a little more time for some of the others. So
then comes the third one, child care assistance. And Ann, this is where you fit in. You'll be doing this, the story, and it's open to you for like 4 minutes, whatever you want to say there. So
Introducing that one.
Oh, okay. Good, Ashley. I just wanted to make sure we were synced up.
This is good. There's a lot of variety in who's a speaker in this session. We tried to make it a little bit more interesting by having a lot of different people talking. So then the advocacy against cuts to the safety net programs is Joan is taking that off as taking that on for the description, and I believe Ellen, and I have not seen her yet, will share a story on her experiences.
So, yep, we know Joan is on and Ellen is on as well. So say hello again, Ellen and Joan.
Hello.
And then Ellen will wrap up with the ask too. And then actually Joan will do the ask. And then we'll do a time check at that point to see where we are. And if we have any time, we're going to go into tiny house legislation, which probably will be Ann Krisnick making some comments as far as we can get into that, if we're not already over time. So that's how we stand in terms of the assumed assignments, shall we say. So anybody see any legislators yet? And by the way, I did confirm with the legislative assistants today, so they are coming.
Yeah, so we have Senator Aaron Murphy joining us, and Representative Dave Pinto and Representative Coley Herr, and we have someone just coming in now, Patricia though. So, but keep your eyes out if you see a legislator pop on. Throw something in the chat so I know. There are a few people on the screen. We are up to 55 people, so this is wonderful.
So I guess we could get started. Do we have a sound with the senator and the two representatives?
We don't have any of our elected officials with us yet at this moment, Dennis.
Okay.
So we're waiting for them to join us. I mean, we could put Kathy on the spot to sing us another Irish hymn while we're waiting for those that missed out and were a little not there for the pre-party.
It's kind of like an encore.
I know, I can't think of another one. Have you ever gone across the sea to Ireland? And maybe at the closing of your day, you can sit and watch the moon rise over Glada and watch the barefoot children at their play. And then I'll go to the last verse. And if there is going to be a life hereafter, and somehow I am sure there's going to be, I will ask my God to let me make my heaven in that dear land across the Irish Sea. And I have to just add,
Ann.
I'm only half Irish. The other half is Croatian.
Well, you beat me, Sister Kathy. I'm 2.5% Irish, so I do have some Irish blood.
You must, because you have that nice green sweater on.
Well, we told people to wear green tonight to have a little fun.
Yeah.
I'm a quarter Irish, so I got you beat, Marty.
Good Good to see you, Sister Florence. So glad you could join us.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for making it so easy. The link was right with the invitation. I hate to
Perfect.
go searching for them.
I did
better be
notice.
quiet now, huh? Let's see.
I did notice that Joan Miltenberger did join us. I already introduced her, but now she's actually on. So Joan, can you say hi?
Sorry about that. Yes, hi. I really wanted to just give a huge word of thanks to Dennis and Marty for organizing this. I know you have a great track record. I'm new to JRLC as a statewide organizer, Joan Miltenberger. So I just wanted to briefly show my support and carry on. And any questions afterwards, please let us know. I'd be great for you to have some debrief time and share your reflections with us in your evaluation. So really appreciate your work and your support.
Thanks.
All righty. Well, we'll be hoping that they'll be joining us any minute here. And if elected official is on and I'm not seeing you in the list, please unmute yourself and say hello.
Hi, all. This is Representative Her. I don't have my camera on yet because I'm in the car going to pick up my daughter from diving, but I am here with all of you.
Super. Thank you, Representative Coley Her. Thank you. And
no, I don't see anybody else.
Keep your eye out for Representative Pinto and Senator Aaron Murphy. I don't know, maybe we're gonna have to ask Sister Kathy to sing us Irish Eyes again as we wait here. I don't know.
Can I say hi to Meg Gillespie?
Absolutely.
I have my Gillespie clan shirt on because I'm a Gillespie, and I've never met Meg Gillespie. Maybe we're related. I don't know. Where is she?
Meg, you're not
I was
unmuted.
gonna say, could be. My father was Bernard Byron,
Well, I'll look it up.
originally Wisconsin.
Oh, I wonder. Well, I'll look that up. Nice to meet you.
I always say my father was from Clam Falls, my mother was from Shell Lake, and they were married by Father Rivers.
Erin Murphy's on. She's muted.
Oh, great. Welcome, Senator Aaron Murphy. If you want to unmute yourself and say hello, we've got Representative Her on and we're waiting for Representative Pinto.
I know Senator Pinto's on his way. There he is.
I'm on. I'm just getting myself a little bit organized here.
Perfect.
Hey. Shall we get moving then? Are we set enough? Okay, why don't I start out? I've got some introductions. Again, I'll introduce myself first. This is my 4th year as the JRLC District 64 organizer. My wife Monica and I reside in Highland Park for the past 25 years. We have 2 co-hosts on for tonight. Marty Roars, who's the director of the CSJ Justice Office, and Joan Whitman, Carondelet Village Justice Liaison to the CSJ Justice Commission. We also have 2 special guests from the JRLC staff. We have Ann Kersnick, who's the executive director, and I'll also say that she is a District 64 resident, so she is one of us as well. And we also have Joan Miltenberger, who's a JRLC statewide organizer, who I've been interacting with for the last 3 weeks in setting up this meeting. We were scheduled, according to the signups, to have 35 constituents from 6 faith-based organizations. Right now, we have 57 people on. So we have gotten more than our signups by almost, well, by 22 people, it looks like. So we've got a great turnout. And in regard to who's here, I'm going to just list the faith-based organizations, and we are going to send a list of everybody to Senator Murphy and the representatives, her and Pinto. So you'll be seeing who's all on, but it'll take a couple days probably for you to get that. We have 9 members of Lumen Christi Catholic Community. We have 11 students and faculty members from Bethel Christian University and Seminary. We have 12 members of the Sisters of St. Joseph Carondelet Consociates and members of their Justice Commission. And we have individuals from Emmanuel Lutheran Church in St. Paul, Luther Seminary, and St. Joan of Arc in Minneapolis. And did I miss anyone this time? No? And in addition to that, as Marty has mentioned, that we are actually live streaming this to Carondelet Village. So we're all on TV today. It's my debut. Please take note that we're recording this meeting for purposes of note-taking and summarization only. The actual recording will only be heard by the hosts and not played in public except for the Carondelet live stream. Tonight, we thank you, Representatives Dave Pinto, Kaylee, Her, and Senator Murphy for spending time with us despite the current rather intensive committee meeting schedule. We are thankful for the 45 minutes you are able to give us, and we have tried to make our agenda as efficient as we possibly can. We'd like to do a special call out here for Senator Murphy, who has been with us in the past, but is here today in a new capacity. Congratulations on your winning the Senate seat, and additionally, happy St. Patty's Day. I might add to that when Marty told Joan Whitman that we were going to be meeting now, she said, "You mean you're going to get Aaron Murphy on St. Patrick's Day to participate?" So apparently, she was surprised that we were able to do that. Over the years, we've had several of these JRLC Day on the Hill meetings with each of you, and sometimes they've been individual and sometimes they've been as a group like tonight. You each have a strong record of supporting JRLC legislative agenda items since you've been first elected, and has sometimes felt to us like we were preaching to the choir. So for tonight, we have modified our agenda a little bit, maybe made it more severe by making it more of a call to action for both you and for us. So what we're going to do is a town hall-like format where we'll present the JRLC legislative agenda items prioritized as of this week. And we'll do that one at a time, and we'll start by first introducing an agenda item, then introducing a volunteer to share a personal story and or some key points around the issues involved. And then excuse me. Okay. And then we'll make a clear and direct ask of a specific legislator based on his or her committee assignments and personal interests and involvement. We'll then listen to the legislator's response, and after that, we'll give the other 2 legislators an opportunity to briefly comment as well. We'll try to cover as many agenda items as we can, but we're going to do a hard stop at 7:40 so we can have 5 minutes of closing comments from the group. So we're expecting that we may get through about 4 of the agenda items. So is there any questions before we get into them? Okay, so our top priority item is 2 emergency housing bills, bonding for emergency shelters, and funding emergency services program, the ESP program. And with that, I'd like to introduce Erica to give us a description.
Hi everyone, my name is Erica Olson and I am a student at St. Catherine University. I am majoring in nursing with a concentration in public health. Our first issue tonight that we would like to raise to you, our elected officials, is that across Minnesota, the need for emergency services and actual shelter spaces is far greater than the supply in the midst of the pandemic. The JRLC supports bonding to fund more emergency shelters in our state. Right now, Ramsey County reports more than 300 unsheltered individuals in the county. On my way to campus, every week I see encampments, and when working with local emergency shelters to vaccinate marginalized communities, it is clear that the staff we work with are stretched thin. Now I will hand it over to Jackie Peterson.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Jackie Peterson, and I am a retired physical therapist from Regions Hospital and also a member of Lumen Christi Catholic Community, and speaking to the investment is to strengthen the emergency services program. I believe in 2019, the legislature funded this ESP with $3 million and then added $1.7 million at that time. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe there's about 12 organizations just in the metro area that receive money from this ESP. I'm going to talk about the importance of added funds for this from the perspective of health and costs, and then just because it's a humane thing to do. First of all, health is a very large topic. I'm just going to talk about just experiences at Regions Hospital and discharging patients to the streets. When patients come in from the streets, they are often discharged to the streets unless they have some condition where they would need oxygen, or many times people need storage for insulin. They need other follow-up services. Social workers at the hospital were challenged many times because many of the shelters in the metro area are full many times during the year. This delays discharges and which adds cost of care, and which everyone absorbs. It's also true that homelessness puts a cost to the taxpayer. ER visits, ambulance rides, police. So the hospitals and clinics rely on community partners, and community partners are often challenged to supply or provide all of the services that are needed for homeless people. Also, a couple of examples of organizations and places that people do receive emergency housing and services are not even on the list of places that currently receive the funding from the ESP. And one of those is, from a personal experience, was called Families Moving Forward. It's a part of Beacon now, providing emergency or temporary housing and services for families. And I've seen firsthand, and also this is part of Beacon services, are volunteer parishes and congregations that provide housing. They would house families for 1 to 3 weeks in spaces. They provide food and other necessary items, clothing and such, and then allow time during the day for parents to look for permanent housing and secure jobs and other services. And I've seen firsthand where, because of this temporary spot that people had, that they were moved to permanent apartments and duplexes. And so this was really a jumping off point for people, and it was really necessary. And I just want to say one more thing about a family friend. Her name is Katie Clark. She is Assistant Director of Nursing at Augsburg College. And she's also was also instrumental in creating something called the Augsburg Central Health Commons. They have 3 locations. One Riverside, Cedar Riverside, one is Central Lutheran Church, and one in Rochester. Katie provides services, nursing services with her students in these, in the Cedar Riverside area, as well as providing water, food, and other things like clothing, and referrals to mental health resources. When COVID hit, she was challenged this winter, and they were lucky enough to partner with a hotel downtown Minneapolis where they were able to house some people. But Katie would then provide her nursing services and distribute her food and water on the grass, on the grounds outside of the clinics. She also would then visit encampments with her supplies and her knowledge and her services. And then she watched the encampments be destroyed. She likes to quote a woman that has touched her, who was on the streets. And this woman said, "It's like no one cares that we're out here." So just in summary or closing, I'd like to say that adequately supplying shelters and associated services for those in need, we offer more of a chance for people to eventually gain secure and stable lives, the kind of life they deserve as a person in this great state of Minnesota.
Okay, would Ann Krisnick like to make any comments or emphasize anything?
I think that was perfect. We have a need. Our faith calls us to care for people who are our neighbor, and we need to do that.
Okay, well, I guess it's up to me to make the ask then. We know that Representative Pinto and Senator Murphy both deeply care about the most vulnerable Minnesotans, especially those experiencing homelessness. But we direct our ask to you, Representative Herr, as I'm sure that you are aware, there is a gigantic gap between the need for emergency shelter and services and their availability in Minnesota. Given the now projected Minnesota state budget surplus, how can we be bold in providing the much needed dollars in such a way that it addresses this time of crisis and leads to longer term sustainable solutions to the issues of homelessness and emergency shelters?
I want to make sure that you do want me to respond now, or do you want me to wait for a little? Okay, so I am as deeply committed to this issue as Representative Pinto and Senator Murphy. I actually sit on the Housing Finance and Policy Committee. I'm actually carrying a number of bills around tenant protections and around affordable housing. And so this issue is really close to me. I've actually done quite a bit of work also around the unsheltered in St. Paul, because I am the policy director for Mayor Melvin Carter. And that actually most of the pandemic time has been spent on the unsheltered population. And I hear you about the funding and the lack of funding, that is continually a struggle. And that the truth is that we can't just look at the unsheltered population and the emergency supports that they need now in this time. The truth is that this issue has gotten worse, that we have more children who are homeless now than we did of the whole homeless population 20 years ago. We are in a crisis, and that in order for us to solve this, not only do we need to fund right now the needs that our unsheltered populations have, but we need to look at the long-term solutions as to why it is that we do not have enough shelter to actually affordable housing in order to shelter everyone, and deeply affordable housing. And part of that has to do with how the financing tools that exist right now of who gets to build and who gets to have access to those housing. And so we need to look at that piece of it. We need to also look at What does it mean to pay people livable wages so that they don't spend all of their wages on housing when they finally do have housing? And so we can't just look at this from an issue of an unsheltered and housing issue. This is an economic issue. And so I'm carrying the $15 minimum wage bill, the state minimum wage bill. I passed the $15 minimum wage ordinance in the city of St. Paul. And so there are many, many things that we need to do, and that we can't even look at all this without looking at the healthcare support that is ongoing. Why is it that's right? Healthcare issues lead to, if we don't have housing, it leads to healthcare issues. And so we have to do our work at the intersection of all of these pieces. And that I am deeply committed to looking at this issue and saying we need to solve this problem from many, many different angles. We cannot just look at it as a single individual issue that needs to be addressed, and that if we apply funding for emergency shelter, that we're going to be able to solve this problem. And so know that you have my commitment, and I will continue to work on this, and I will continue to press forward in ensuring that we have tenant protection bills, but we also have financing tools to help with affordable housing, and that we also give people the resources that they need to stay sheltered. That means paying them livable wages. And so I am deeply committed to this, and I commit to all of y'all to continue to work on that.
Thank you. Any comment from Representative Pinto or Senator Murphy?
Representative Herr is an outstanding leader on these issues. She came into the legislature and took hold of this issue, and she has been leading. So I don't have a lot to add. I support what she's talking about, the intersections, the wages, the healthcare system that doesn't care for people, and the lack of affordable housing, among other things. And in boldness, Rep. Herr and I are carrying the fifth-tier income tax increase that would provide $1.2 billion in additional funding for the state. And while we have a significant surplus, a lot of that surplus is one-time money. Only about $250 million of that $1.6 billion is ongoing structural surplus. The balance is one-time money. And if we want to solve long-term problems, we need a long-term funding source. And Rep. Herr authored a bill and sent it my way, and we're going to fight for that as well. I have been to many shelters. I've been to shelters where I've seen hospital beds without nurses, people who have left a hospital and gone to shelter because they have no place to go. And they're not getting care, but they're in a hospital bed because they're not yet healed either. I've seen people with walkers. I have seen people who are obviously mentally ill and need health care. And they are a part of our shelter population. We are doing those human beings who deserve every measure of dignity and respect a disservice by not tackling this problem.
And Dennis, I'll just note that I assume that the framing of the question was directed to Representative Herr because she is in fact our champion on housing and on issues of housing and making sure that people have a stable, affordable place to live. And I'll just note this feels really appropriate to me to start with this, right? Because I guess I just can't think of any greater way that we would live out our faith, any sort of more fundamental question for us than someone who is in fact living in an unsheltered situation and seeing our neighbor as our sister, brother, or family member, and making sure that we're meeting both that immediate need and then those broader needs that my colleagues identified. So thanks for starting with this, and yeah, certainly very supportive.
And I'd just like to confirm that, yes, we directed these questions to who we felt was the most involved of the three of you, or had some background in it or something like that. So it's the most relevant person that we could come up, which was hard to do with the three of you, because you're all very much engaged. So
and that will be similar with the next issue we'd like to bring up is driver's license suspensions and fines. And so we start with knowing that Representative Pinto, you are a co-author or co-sponsor of one of the bills, and Representative Herr, you're the co-sponsor on another bill. So we're going to direct this one to Senator Erin Murphy just because she is so new in her position as a senator. But as you're well aware, fines and fees from traffic violations are stripping low-income individuals and their communities of their wealth. It's creating hardships for families. Something as simple as a traffic violation comes with the Minnesota State $75 state surcharge, which unfortunately judges don't have the ability to waive, reduce, give public service options or other things. It's mandatory. We are supporting legislation in a variety of ways that one would allow judges the ability to make a decision based on someone's hardship, and also would not force suspensions of a license. And so there are two different bills here in the House. They're moving along, and clearly one of the biggest barriers right now is in the Senate. I see it with a neighbor of mine who has had to make really hard choices of struggling to pay, again, what seems like a relatively small fine or fee for some of us, and yet it has to be a choice between, am I going to provide food for my kids, or forego rent or some other utilities things. And so, and then we're revoking people's licenses, not for safety issues, but for other reasons. So again, to cut to the chase and to save time so we can move to some other issues, our ask is very clearly to you, Senator Murphy, knowing that the other two are co-authors on a bill. Our ask is, we know that the most vulnerable Minnesotans are really struggling economically during COVID already, and this is adding another layer of difficulty to some low-income families in particular. We feel that this is a critical time to pass this legislation. It is moving in certain circles, and so what can we do to help this move this session? Because this has been around for a number of sessions now.
Thank you for the question, and I'm actually familiar with, though have not heard either of these proposals in the Senate, and I support them both. I always love to tell the story about my grandma when I was in college, and she was incensed by the policy 3 strikes and you're out. She was beside herself that we were negotiating, debating in this country a policy that was so punitive, and she was right. And the further we peel back the layers of the ugly onion of our judicial system and our criminal justice system, the more that we recognize the ways that we have put disincentives or punishments into the law, the more we see its impact on the ability for people to actually live their life. It doesn't make any sense to attach a penalty, like we would strip you of your license if you haven't paid a fine, and the fine doesn't make any sense either. The judges should have the discretion, especially for violations like what are being described in this case. We know to live and get around in Minnesota, where we don't have the most replete public transit system, that people need to be able to get often to where they need to go to work, get their kids to school in a car. You need a driver's license for that. It is hard to get around Minnesota without an automobile. We should fix that as well. But to penalize people by stripping that means of living your life in this state is wrong. And it's one of the many things that I believe we can fix. Here in Minnesota, I am relying a lot these days on my colleagues in the House who have a majority and a majority to be able to move these issues. But I am not sitting around in my office waiting for them to act. And instead, I'm using the platforms that I have to advance these issues, to lift them up, to call attention to them, so that when we do get to the point, if we get to the point where the House is able to pass some of these measures, we can pick them up in the Senate and make them into the law. That is part of the job that I have in the Senate in the minority, is to make a lot of noise, to make people feel uncomfortable, to lift up issues so that they are ripe for adoption when we get to that point in the session. And I'm going to keep doing that.
Thank you, Senator Murphy. Keep making noise for us. And for the sake of time, we know where the two representatives stand as hopefully co-sponsors of the bill. We want to get to another issue that we believe Dave Pinto has a special passion for. And so we're going to invite our next presenter on childcare.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much to our legislators that are here with us tonight. We're really grateful for your time, and a special thank you to Representative Pinto for being a longtime vanguard on the issue of childcare and early ed. My name is Ashley Lopez. I work for the CSJs. I have a master's in early ed, and I worked in early childhood education for a long time in a lot of different capacities. So this is something I'm really passionate about. For those who don't know, the Child Care Assistance Program, or CCAP as it's called, helps low and moderate income families with childcare costs so that parents and guardians are able to work or go to school. It's the state's largest program that serves infants and toddlers, and the costs are astronomical. Minnesota's CCAP reimbursement rates for providers is extremely low. Actually, less than 25% of daycares in the state receive any money from the program, making it more difficult for them to accept low-income families. Furthermore, there are over 2,400 families on the wait list to receive funding to get care for their kids. And this has huge implications for our children and our communities. This coming Tuesday, House File 1747 will be heard in the Early Childhood Finance and Policy Committee. The bill seeks to return Minnesota to its pre-recession level of provider reimbursement rates and bring Minnesota to the federally recommended level of 75%, which would allow 75% of childcare centers to receive reimbursement. And actually, the reimbursement rate required by the federal government is 25%. And last I saw, Minnesota was only reimbursing at 23%. So we're not even making the federal requirement, which means that we can lose a big chunk of federal funding, or we could be fined millions of dollars because we're simply not funding childcare. House File 1747 is also calling for fully funding the CCAP program so that all families can be off of the wait list. We are really keeping an eye on 1747 as well as any other childcare related bills, because this is an issue that has a widespread impact on our kids and our communities. I'll pass it off to Ann Mealy.
Thanks, Ashley. Wow, she's got the stats. Good job. I am Ann Mealy. I'm from Lumen Christi Catholic Community. And shout out to my representative, Dave Pinto, whom I love to just get personal messages when I nag at him, and to Aaron Murphy, who was my very first legislator I ever visited and took away all my fears of getting on things like this and speaking out loud, even though this is something I hate and dread. So I'll just get on with it. But you people are such a gift in a time where government is so discouraging. You give me hope. So thank you. And Representative Herr, I haven't met you before, so I'm very grateful for all the work that I hear you're doing. And this is a privilege to be with you. So anyway, I'm speaking tonight following Ashley's great summary of the bill because of a friend of mine, Chantel, whom I met as part of a refugee resettlement program at Lumen Christi. We were lucky enough a couple of years ago to partner with Lutheran Social Services, which is an amazing organization. And we formed a little circle around Chantel and her children as they moved from, well, she emigrated from the Congo, fled violence there, and then spent 7 years in a refugee camp and then moved to Minnesota. And what was supposed to be a 6-month commitment has turned into 2 years of our falling in love with this little family and walking with them. And it has given my privileged eyes a look at gaps and struggles of things that I never even could have fathomed. So I've watched Chantel. She's struggled with English as she's moved here, but her one sentence that she, from the get-go, could speak English was always, Anna, she calls me Anna, Anna, help me find job. So from day one, that was her request of me. And we've worked with her for, she's had multiple jobs. Chantel has built wooden pallets. She has bagged bread in a bakery. She has done laundry for a hotel. She was even willing to work in a 45-degree refrigerator packing snack foods for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. But she couldn't take that job because her daycare wouldn't accommodate the end of the day not being a set time. So all of these various jobs that Chantel has held ended because she lost daycare. She used to have it. She used to have subsidized daycare. It used to pick her daughter, Wamini, up at 6:30 in the morning, drop her off at the end of the day. The kids would go to school. COVID came, took jobs away, remote learning started, and her daycare could not afford the risk to stay open. And so it's just become so clear to me watching how much she is so relentless in finding work, intending to work, trying to watch her make a decision between, I mean, it's unfathomable to her to not be pursuing work. And she tried, I mean, she was like, okay, I have to work. And she's trying to finagle ways where getting neighbors to check in on the kids while they're in school, and having to watch her make that choice of not working because she doesn't have that care. So our ask today is a personal one for people like Chantel. I had heard there were 2,900 people on the waiting list. So that's even more than Ashley's, but I kind of trust her stats because she seems to be that. But what I was appalled by is that Minnesota is not even hitting the federal guidelines are that 75% reimbursement for these poor providers, and we're not even at 25%. I also heard that
So thank you, Ann. We're going to get to the formal ask now. We appreciate your story, Ann. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And I know you were headed this way, but this ask is, we know that both Representative Hurt and Senator Murphy also care for the deeply for the well-being of our children in Minnesota. But our ask to you specifically, Representative Pinto, because we know that this is a passion project for you as well, is how are you going to continue carrying this cause, and what can we do to support you and other legislators in securing this funding for the CCAP program?
Yeah, thank you, Ashley. Thanks so much. And yeah, I'll know Representative Her is a co-author of the bill that you mentioned, that the bill regarding CCAP rates. And I know Senator Murphy's been a huge champion. And I will try to sort of contain myself here because I get very excited when it comes to thinking about the needs of the littlest kids. And I think the first step that we all can do is to be sort of coming at this from the right mental perspective. And so I want to challenge you to do is imagine a world right now where there was very little public money for education for K-12. So imagine that, somebody who has an 8-year-old kid or a 13-year-old kid has to figure out entirely on their own how they're going to educate their kid. So that's one problem, right? It's going to be very expensive stuff. But the other problem is, what are you going to do with your 6-year-old or 8-year-old or 10-year-old during the day when you're off at work? So, and we've really seen during the pandemic how much K-12 education is also childcare. And of course, it's also education, right? So we really need to be thinking about the story that Ann said. Chantel has a huge challenge, right? And the rates are incredibly low. And what I tell people at national conferences, how low our childcare rates are, other legislators from other states, their jaws drop because Minnesota is just completely, it's just a disaster. And so it's incredibly expensive for families. It's incredibly low pay for the people who are doing this work, for our very most important teachers. So huge problems there. But it's also an issue in terms of Chantel's kids receiving the high quality early care and learning that they need and the support that they need. So it's a problem all the way around. And the opportunity gaps that we're trying to close start off in the very earliest years. So that's the first step, is just to sort of have our brains be thinking about it the right way. And Ashley, I am pushing super hard in all kinds of ways. On Tuesday, we'll be having announcements about the budget targets for different committees in the Minnesota House. And for the very first time, early childhood, this area will receive a public budget target. That'll actually be a number that'll say how much money goes to this. That's really powerful and important. But then we really need to be doing in all these areas is lifting up the stories about this, of course, about housing and everything else we've talked about, and really make sure that all of our legislators are really feeling the need and recognizing the need. Because in fact, childcare and early learning are issues all throughout the state, as all the other things that we're talking about are. A lot more to say on this, but I'll just say that the first step is for us to recognize we think of childcare over here and early learning over there. It's all the same thing, and it's incredibly powerful. We need to really be lifting up families and communities and of course, the littlest Minnesotans. Thanks.
Thank you so much for your clarity on that.
All righty, as we look at our time, we were going to try and squeeze in our last, the fourth item. And so we're going to turn it over to Joan Whitman to start us off on cuts to safety net programs.
Okay, thank you, Marty. I have to say happy St. Patrick's Day to Senator Murphy. The issue I'm speaking to is the protection of the safety net programs that serve our most vulnerable Minnesotans. As you, our policymakers, have to make these difficult decisions, it is important that those programs serving our most vulnerable Minnesotans are protected. Programs like Medicare, medical assistance, the Medicaid, Minnesota Care, and the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, are vital to low-income Minnesotans. According to the Second Harvest reports, 9 in 1 adults don't know where their next meal is going to come from. And 1 in 6 children don't. That's unacceptable. Children cannot learn if they are hungry. The SNAP program is vital to our low-income neighbors as Medicaid is for their health concerns. Catholic social teaching challenges us to respond to the signs of the times, especially these times of COVID, by considering the option for the poor and most vulnerable. First, not last, in the decisions and choices that we make. Perhaps you are aware that the CSJ sister community made a commitment to offer their provincial house to Minnesota families who are experiencing homelessness. The commitment is to 20 families. As of today, 17 have moved in, 144 children ages infant to 16. This is in partnership with Project Home. I'll close with saying how proud I am to be a part of this CSJ community for their amazing example of living the message of love of the dear neighbor without distinction. I strongly believe that as a state, we also are called to do everything we can to advocate against any cuts, and better yet, to see an increase of funding to assist those most in need in our community. And now I'll turn it over to Ellen to share her story.
Hi everyone, my name is Ellen Heastand and I'm an occupational therapy student at St. Catherine University. I also work as an intern with the Sisters of St. Joseph Justice Office in the St. Kate's CSJ Food Shelf. I'm just going to be talking specifically about SNAP during my story. As for many people, COVID has been a really challenging time for many college students. I've seen many friends lose jobs as a result of the pandemic, which makes affording necessities difficult. And I've seen the same trends in working for the food shelf. Those that have been visiting St. Kate's and CSJ Food Shelf, including traditional students, associate and adult students, and graduate students, some with children, are taking more food than they did prior to COVID. The need is also clear for area community members served by the St. Mary's Health Clinics that we've started serving through a pop-up food shelf clinic at the St. Mary's Health Clinics. And whenever the food shelf is opened, I do leave a little bit disheartened that so many students are able to access that nutritious food without the help of a campus food shelf. It just seems challenging to me that a small community-led food shelf would be the consistent option for getting nutritious food. So in the midst of a challenging time for so many students, I just ask that we consider bolstering and not cutting safety net programs like SNAP that provide vital nutrition to students, patients, and others that have been so heavily impacted by the pandemic, because a campus food shelf should not be the best option for obtaining nutritious food. Thank you.
So Senator Murphy, we ask, how might we move the Minnesota Senate in a time of a projected Minnesota state budget surplus to find compromise within both Republicans and Democrats to protect safety net programs?
Thank you, Joan Whitman, and happy St. Patrick's Day to you and to everybody. The Republicans in the Senate released their budget targets yesterday, and their budget target in Health and Human Services is a flat zero. It's a flat line with an additional $100 million worth of reform savings. A flat zero is a budget cut in Health and Human Services. In the ag budget, they've appropriated in target, they haven't appropriated, but they set a target of $40 million, which they intend to spend on broadband, which we sorely need. But that doesn't leave any money for SNAP. And so from my perspective, the most powerful tool that we always have is one another. And making sure that inside the Capitol, where there is a chain link fence right now keeping us apart, that we are using our powerful voices and stories to set a different set a different expectation and tell a different story than the ones that we're going to hear from the Republicans who are in the majority in the Senate. Their budget target is just the first. We're going to see a governor's supplemental budget. We're going to see targets coming from the House. And this is the first in a series. So it's the beginning and not the end. But over and over, what I have heard from news stories is that people in the legislature are tired. And for those who were serving in the last couple of years through the course of this pandemic, I bet people are tired, just like Minnesotans are tired, because we've experienced something that we haven't necessarily experienced in our past. And so the conclusion that some draw is people are tired, they just want to balance the budget and go home. And that isn't good enough for us, right? It's just not good enough because we know how much people have suffered. And what I've experienced thus far in the Senate is when I talk about Minnesotans and the ways that they are suffering, especially when I do it on the floor of the Senate, my Republican colleagues like to get up and interrupt me and stop me because they don't want to hear that. So they need to hear from me and they need to hear from us. And there are lots of ways for you to communicate in addition to coming into the Capitol like you are tonight. But I hope you'll continue your laser focus, supporting me, pushing all of us, but also making sure that you're communicating clearly your expectations to Paul Gazelka and to the Republican leadership in that caucus. Because with the one-time money that we have and our capacity to raise money with revenue, we can meet people's needs and position Minnesota for our future where everybody thrives and not just survives. And that's our job.
I'd like to jump in if it's okay. Are we, is that an appropriate thing to do at this point? I guess I'll just get going and Marty, you can.
Yeah, we're at our time, so we just out of respect to you all as officials. Can we get 5 extra minutes and then you all can have a chance to make your final comments? Absolutely.
Yeah, no, good. So you're doing, so I should talk or not?
Go ahead.
And
Yes,
and all I was going to say, sorry, all I was just going to say is that I was thinking as Aaron was talking, that the expectations of those of us at the Capitol, right, are set by Minnesotans and Minnesotans talking to one another. I mean, it's important that, you all are sharing your stories with us. That's critical. And for us to do our work at the Capitol. And it's just so important that we all be talking to one another and that you all be talking to, I just thinking about appealing to our colleagues. Minnesotans around the state, I think, ordinary Minnesotans, people living their lives, understand the call to be to care for their neighbor and to care for one another. And I think sometimes there's the disconnect of what's happening in people in their lives and then what their legislators are hearing and thinking then at the Capitol in terms of thinking that they're representing their constituents. And so having the conversations among Minnesotans is just so critical that we all be doing this. And recognizing in the last 2 years, I think it's becoming increasingly clear that our politics can't be a spectator sport or something that we're outsourcing to somebody else. You all know this, you're on the call with us now. But so much, it's just so important for us to be having conversations across Minnesota with one another. That's what's so great about the joint coalition that this represents, that Ann is doing the work at the Capitol, representing people all around the state. And so I guess I just really want to urge you all to please keep that up, not just in communication with those of us directly at the Capitol, but with other people of faith across the state so that they can then be in communication with their legislators as well. And that's really how we're going to get better policy along the way too. Thanks.
Representative Hurd, did you have any concluding comment that you'd like to make?
Oh, I didn't know if I was concluding or if I was sharing. I was
Actually,
part of this question, but I will just share a quick concluding comment that I'm so thankful that all of you are doing this work. So I came to this country as a refugee. I was 4 years old when I came, and when Anne was telling the story about Chantal, made me really think about like the things that my family went through. And I was telling someone this the other night that I feel like my life before was like a dream, that I did, and back in those days, like I didn't know that eating one meal a day meant that I was food insecure. I didn't know that when my family lived in multiple households together that we were housing insecure. I did not know that when I didn't get resources in school that there was an equity issue around education. And there was just so many things that I didn't know back then, and that I know now, and I know better, and that I know that people are still struggling with those issues now. And it is all the more important for us to see that what has happened with this pandemic was not that we are, starting to see the disparities, that the disparities were there. It became worse because of the pandemic, that our kiddos can't learn in school because of distance learning and because of the digital divide and equity, the digital equity issues, that our families now, when we can see the health disparities of who gets access to healthcare and who doesn't, and who is disproportionately impacted by the healthcare issues within our communities, who is disproportionately impacted by COVID-19, and who has the resources to get the care that they need. And that we are seeing that who is most disproportionately impacted by the issues of housing and housing issues. And that I feel like what we are finally seeing is that these issues are large, and they're systemic, and they're structural. And this pandemic just made it all the more clear to us that it is those people who come from places of faith, places of knowing that you put people first, that we have been taught that we think about our children and our most vulnerable and those who are the greatest in need. And that I come from a long history of faith. My grandfather was the first Hmong Methodist pastor in the country, actually in the world. My grandfather was the first Hmong Methodist pastor. My parents became missionaries afterwards. And I've always been taught that you help those who are the most vulnerable. And that to see that I am in such good company with people who are fighting for the same things I'm fighting for. And that when I see the people you are advocating for, I see myself, I see my family, I see what we went through. It was the church that taught us everything that we needed in order to become contributing members of this country and society. And that I have so much hope in knowing that you are all here and that you are my partners in this work. And I could not be more thankful for such great and amazing partners in this. And I will continue to work with you to advocate for those who are the most vulnerable, those who are the most oppressed, those who are the most marginalized. I will continue to stand with you in this work.
Thank you, Representative Herr. So we know we're a little bit over the time. You gave us all 45 minutes. We don't know if you have other meetings or maybe some St. Patrick's Day parties yet, but we want to give you all a chance just to make your final comments, because we know we packed a lot into these 45 minutes. So maybe a minute for each representative, and then we'll just do a formal thank you.
Maybe I'll just jump in to say I think my own faith. I think it's true of all three of your legislators that our faith is a real driver for us. I know for me, and I come from a Catholic social justice tradition, as I think many of you know. I attend St. Peter Claver Catholic Church, which is a Black Catholic church, and it's been a really powerful experience for me, and having my kids be raised in that community. And that is the primary motivation for me. Is I'm thinking that it's so critical that each person in our community and our state be given the chance to thrive and to live out their very best life. And I really want to dedicate myself to that. That's where I focused my energy on those earliest years to make such a difference. And then my work as a prosecutor of gender violence and sexual exploitation and sex trafficking, wanting to make sure to really be lifting up vulnerable people in that work as well. I said in response to somebody in the chat, that it's just been really energizing. It is energizing to get to be with you all tonight. At a really busy and tough time in the session. It's really positive and just feels really good. And I just want to encourage each one of you, feel free to be in touch with the three of us, with each one of us as your legislators. It's just so important we continue to be in relationship with one another. And I want to encourage you, if you contact me, you don't hear back from me, and maybe just I'm swamped, contact me again, because I really want to be in touch with you. And I'm so grateful for the time together tonight. So thanks.
I'm grateful as well to be with you tonight. It is my privilege and honor to represent our district in the Minnesota Senate and to be back to work for the people of Minnesota. I think a lot about the work in front of me, and I talk often about fighting for what I believe in, fighting for my values, fighting for the people of Minnesota, so that together we can build our future. But the pandemic has reminded me that some of the most powerful instruments that we have are empathy and compassion and love. And especially in my last campaign, before I ran for the Senate, I experienced the power of love in a campaign and and joy in a campaign and hope in a campaign. And it showed me that we're capable of so much more than what is being served up right now by some, not all, but by some in the Capitol. And I want very much to be a part of making that different and better, because I think when we are centering us in our politics and we are focused on love, we bring more people with us, we have more power. And with that, we can build something better for the people of Minnesota. That's what I believe in. I believe in you, and I believe in me, and I believe in us. And this is filling up my cup tonight, which is probably better than a beer on St. Patrick's Day. So I'll leave it at that. But thank you for making time and space for me tonight. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for the extra time. We do appreciate it very much. And we'd like to thank you, Representatives Pinto and her, and Senator Murphy, for your representation of District 64, your time and your thoughts here tonight as well. And I would add that it was a week or two ago when there was a hearing on a driver's license for all, that there was a contact made, and we turned out a number of people from our social justice group. So a two-way communication might also be something that might benefit you if you run into something that you would like to see some advocacy on. You got several groups of people here who would be willing to help. So with that, Marty, do you have any other comments?
No, just thank you all. And I hope that the 58 plus people, I know there's a couple places where there are 2 people on the call. Great sign of love and support for all of you as our representatives. And thank you for the extra time tonight. We are very, very grateful.
Thanks so much. Take care.
So long. Okay, for those of for the constituents, we wanted to carry on till 8:15. And what we wanted to talk about here was just do a freestyle, pretty much, comments and also things that we might want to consider for, this shouldn't be a one-time a year thing where we talk to our legislators. We should be doing it on an ongoing basis. And there's a number of, the topics that we wanted to get to that we were not unable to. So just any thoughts that people might have about wanting to meet up with our legislators again and do something, with 1 or 2 of them, however we wanted to do that. So how might we think about going about making it live on a little bit?
And even just starting with the basics of how did it go tonight? Was this valuable, helpful? Do you think we left an impression? Okay, I'll just call people out as I see hands. Go ahead, Joan.
Joan.
Well, I very much appreciate the 3 of them together because they work together. And I think if we could have, session is short and May 17th is the end. So if we waited a whole month, I think that's almost too long. But if we maybe offered to do another in 3 weeks or something like that, I have a feeling that they would be able to work something out for us. And I'm in favor of the 3 of them together.
Like that.
Other comments, takeaways, thoughts about tonight, how it went?
I thought there was a good mix of hard data, statistics, facts, and then the personal story, either having been affected by the disparities or walking with someone, a family who has been affected that way. I thought that a lot was packed into this, and I'm grateful to be part of it.
Thank you, Sister Florence.
Dennis, you asked them to let us know if they felt that a group of us would be helpful in advocating for a cause, but also vice versa. I think we should be alert. And if we think there's an area, to make a contact with them and see if that would help.
Really good point.
Bob Bertel, you had a comment?
Well, just that, as was mentioned, we're preaching to the choir. We don't have to convince them of anything. But I think what I detected was they really appreciate our support. And that's got to be a tough, tough job to be in the legislature these last few years. And so I think we should not forget our obligation to continue to give them that personal support.
I wanted to give credit to Dennis Dujanev and Marty Roars for their leadership in getting us together. Yeah, and without y'all's constant badgering on either end, you know, it wouldn't have come off. Changing dates and so forth. Communication is so vital. I too agree with Bob. I think we're good at being encouragers and have our stories to tell. But what I feel is missing is that we aren't talking to the people that they are confronted with each day that are the other party and different persuasion. And I don't know how we impact that or if we can. And so just think about it.
Well, quickly on that, Anise, though, Senator Murphy did say we should contact Paul Gazelka. That was a clear ask she had of us. So I think she's asking us to help her in that. So Eric, Celeste, do you have a comment? And then I'm also going to nudge any students or first timers who've never done advocacy before. What was your experience tonight as Eric shares his comments?
So mine was in this vein too. I could sense, some clear frustration from Aaron at being in the minority. And part of the problem is representatives, as much as we might want to talk with Paul Gazelka, tend to listen to their own. And so I wonder if there isn't an opportunity. Many of us represent communities like the Catholic Church or various other churches that actually stretch into districts that are represented by Republicans. And I wonder if we could take some of what we learn here about how we reach out to our representatives and help a community somewhere else reach out to their Republican representative on some of these issues, and just talk to them through their own constituents, inspire their own constituents to do something like this. And so I don't know how we do that, but that may be another thing we can do long-term to plan on how to reach out to other districts that are represented by the other party.
Great point there, Eric. Again, a nudge to any first timers. We've got a bunch of students from Bethel, some from St. Kate's. Renee?
Yeah, I can go. I think as a first timer, it was really interesting going in. I know I was definitely nervous of like, what is this going to look like? And what my role is. And just definitely being here, like, it's just to listen and just be supportive presence in all of this. So I think it was really interesting to hear and encouraging to hear from our representatives that at least the three that we talked to are really supportive of that. And so it's encouraging and hopeful for me as a constituent, but also hearing other constituents and hearing you all and your voice and what you have to say is also very encouraging. So yeah, it was all very, very, very good.
I'm going to nudge also our Katie speakers so they put themselves out there, and thoughts or comments from you. I know you were a little nervous of stepping into some of those roles tonight, so thank you, and any comments from you and other Bethel students.
I thought this is my first time for sure, and I thought it was a really good experience. I agree with what someone was saying. I don't remember who said it, about it being good that there was all three of them on there and kind of get all those perspectives on the call. I was kind of wondering before we had started talking about it, if we do these kind of visits with people that don't support us, because that would definitely be a different dynamic.
Yeah.
Ann Maley, I think I cut you off there. Did you have a comment?
I was just, I think I was going to bring up to Ann Krisnick and see if there was anything we could do to help. She had said other districts aren't quite as organized or as big or as well set up as you and Dennis have made us. So I was wondering if we could jump on other calls, or if we could support organization or whatever of other JRLC participants in key districts as these bills get moved closer, and or if any of them make it into the Senate.
I did a general comment. Let me look at that. This year, for the first time, we put together a cadre of individuals who would go with districts who we only had 1 or 2 people signed up to speak to the legislators, or where everyone was new. There wasn't an experienced advocate, someone who hadn't gone before, so they'd have someone to help them make their appointments and do things. And so let me think about that a little bit. I just want to say this is so impressive to the people who spoke. You did a marvelous job. The number of people on the call really shows strong support. And what we get, probably the most common question that I get, you get it one of 2 ways. My legislator will never do what I want. Is it worthwhile talking to him? Or our legislators always vote the way that I want. Is it worth me spending the time to talk to him? You know, kind of the same question, a different way. It's so wonderful for the 3 of them to leave this call and say, these people really appreciate what we're doing and we're supported, and it's, you know, energizing and supportive. So the Sea of Green was a really nice touch. I somehow missed that, but there's something really lovely about when you're in those fights, especially Senator Murphy. It's really hard to have people say no all the time, you know, so really wonderful to hear that. And then I just want to add, once we get into budget discussions, everybody's fair game. So, you know, obviously they're going to listen to their own constituents more than they would to people who aren't there. But once we get into budget discussions, the Budget and Finance, they represent people statewide. So the call to Senator Gazelka or to Julie Rosen, who's head of the Finance Committee in the Senate, you know, they're going to keep track of how many calls come in. So you'll start seeing, if you're on the JRLC list, we haven't done a whole lot of action alerts this year yet so far, except to targeted people whose senators or representatives are on committees that we're appearing in front of, but you'll start to see those more. And so we want to make sure we're thanking the people that are doing the things that we are really pleased with and that they hear that, but you'll be hearing more of those as we go along. But to speak specifically to Mary's idea and Ann's question, let me look a little bit at that. And one of the reasons we really wanted to be taping this is atypical. Most of our meetings range from 3 to 8 people. And so to have this many people is really unusual, and it really allowed you to put together the wonderful town hall meeting, the way you structure with different people speaking and really showing a cross section of people in our district. So this was great.
Good.
Thank you. Thank to all of you.
Any other thoughts or comments or next steps? I'll just say a shout out to everyone who did take the hint and wear some green. I'll give a shout out to Mary there. You get the prize, Mary Hess. You get the prize with all the green background.
All right. Where's she at? Oh, yeah.
Well, thanks for putting it together, Dennis and Marty in particular, and the rest that helped. This was a great experience.
Very good.
Well, good. We will continue to look at, I think, as Joan Whitman said, maybe 3 weeks from now, we could try and reach out and do something again, or finding ways to support other districts, or maybe just giving a big push as we move towards the end of session, because some of these issues are going to need some nudging to anyone and everyone we can.
Mm-hmm.
I will do a little summary of the discussion here when I've had a chance to get the recording, and I'll send that out a couple pager probably to everybody who's participated.
Thank you.
Well, a big thanks to everyone that helped present or present or ask, if that's the right word. And a special shout out and thanks to our Bethel students. I know that this, for many of them, was their first time. And our St. Kate students, what better way to get experience than just jump in and do it?
There you go.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. Kathy, do you want to sing us out with an Irish blessing or something? I mean, oh, you got to unmute yourself there, Kathy.
We're smiling more now than we were at the beginning. So we'll just do that and everybody can sing along and it'll sound terrible, but sing anyway. I mean, we're not all on the same voice. Sound doesn't come in at the same time. But anyway, when Irish eyes are smiling, show the light of morning rain in the little of Irish laughter, and you can hear us when Irish hearts are happy, all the world seems bright. And when Irish eyes are smiling, sure they'll steal your heart away.
One comment, please. Bridget McDonald has a sign on her door. When Irish eyes are smiling, you know they're up to something.
There you go.
Very good coming from Bridget McDonald. Thank you for that closing there, Florence. That's great.
Thank you, Bertie.
Have a blessed evening, everyone.